Hello everyone, welcome to Dr. Rajkumar's Learning App, myself Subramanya. In today's session, we shall have a discussion on topic analogy. Coming on to an introduction part, analogy is a type of logical reasoning where two things are compared and conclusions are drawn based on their similarities. Analogy is one of the topic of logical reasonings. In this topic, we have a discussion on comparison between two similar things of same kind. A question consisting of words related to each other based on some logic will be given, and candidate will need to find a word or paired words analogous to those given in the question. The general form of analogy means if A relates to B, proportionate, C relates to D, right? The meaning of A is to B related to C is to D means if A is related to B, proportionate as C is related to D. It means if AB belongs to one domain, then C and D will also belongs to other domain of same kind. From this we can conclude that the topic of analogy will usually follows the rule of proportionality. From that we can conclude that analogy is nothing but a proportionality rule. Okay, let's study the same part in detail now. There are some directions for solving these kind of problems. Let's study in detail. Right, directions. Choose the correct alternatives from the options given corresponding to each individual question. We have the directions over here where the direction says we have to choose the correct alternative from the given options, right? We will be given some options and from that options we need to select the right alternative. Okay, moving on to our first question. If Raj time relates to United States, then how is Raga related to? Options are cloth, country, piano, as well as India. From this question we can come to a conclusion that the question is subjecting to some musical form. Seeing that word Ragtime and Raga, we can clearly say that the question is subjecting to a subject of musical forms. Let's study the hint now. Hint for solving. Ragtime is a type of music from the United States. Then we need to identify in which country Raga is followed. Usually Raga will be followed in the country India. Raga is the tradition of musical form which is followed in our country. So the right option for the first question is answer D. If board is related to train, then how is horse related to? Question is stating that dash relates to horse whereas board is related to train. The options are stable, shoe, ride, as well as mount. We call the process of getting into a train is called boarding. Similarly, they are asking what is the process of getting on a horse. Looking at the options, we have stable, shoe, ride, and mount. Stable is not the right answer because stable is the place where horse are sheltered, whereas the shoe and ride are it's a fixing elements of the rider, whereas mounting means the process of getting on a horse is called a mounting. In the second set we have the process of getting into. In the first set also we need to have a process of getting on a horse is called as mounting. The right hint is to mount means to get on a horse and to board means to get on a train. What we have analyzed is right. The right answer is option D. Moving on to our next question. If dash relates to trail, then grain is related to grail. If we observe, we have only one letter difference in a second type of series. Let us see the hint now. Train becomes trail when N is replaced by a L, and grain becomes grail when N is replaced by L. If we replace the letter L by N, we're gonna get the option as first option, that is train. Moving on to our next question. Flow relates to river whereas tangent relates to what? From this we can conclude that subject is related to a movement of water. Usually in a river we see the water in a flowing condition, right? We need to choose the word where water is tangent in the current mode. If we see the options over here is rain, stream and canal. Usually in rain, stream and canal we see the water in a movement condition or else in a flowing condition. Only the option pool. Only in option pool we have the water in a stagnant condition. So the right option for this question is answer C. Let us see the hint now. As the water of river flows, similarly water of the pool is stagnant. So the right answer for this question is option C, right? Moving on to our next question. If cup relates to lip, bird relates to dash. The options followed are bush, grass, forest and beak. As we discussed, first is used to drink with the help of second. Similarly, we need to find now bird uses which organ for its convenience. From the options, we can clearly say that bird uses beak as we use lip for a intake. Similarly, the bird uses beak to collect the grasses. So the right option for this question is option D. Hence, cup is used to drink something with the help of lips. Similarly, the bird collects grass with the help of beak to make the nest. Okay, the right option for this question is option D. Moving on to our next question. Doctor relates to nurse, whereas follower relates to dash. The options are employer, leader, worker, manager. Usually, second is instructed by a first. If we see the question, we have doctor and nurse. The nurses is being instructed by a doctor. They are asking dash is instructed by a follower. Followers follow instructions of a leader. So the correct option for this question is option B, leader. Right? Problem number 7. If grain relates to stock, stick relates to dash. First one heap, second one bundle, third one collection, fourth one string. Hence, second is the collection of first. The collection of grains is usually as stocking. They are asking what is the collection of sticks. The collection of sticks we usually call it as bundle. We usually see the sticks in a covered condition. That cover will be called it as bundles. Okay, so the right option for this question is option B, bundle. Moving on to our next question. Question number 8. Dog relates to bark, whereas goat relates to dash. From this we can clearly say that second is the noise produced by first word. Bark is the sound produced by dogs. They are asking what is the sound produced by goats. Following the options, we have bleating, howl, grunt and blay. For blay we don't have any meaningful sense. Grunting is for pigs. Howling means a long and loud cry. The sound produced by goat is called as bleating. Okay, the right option for this question is option A. Moving on to our next question. If growth relates to death, what is increase related to? At first, what strikes to our mind is growth is opposite word of death, whereas we need to find the opposite for increase, which is absolutely wrong here. Please notice that the opposite of growth is called decline, whereas here they have given the word death. Death is not a opposite word of growth. Then what is the analogy followed here is the second one puts an end to the activity of a first one. We usually see here death puts an end to the activity of growth. We observe in the same sense decrease puts an end to the activity of increase. Okay, the right option for this question is answer B. Moving on to our next question. Problem number 10. Acting relates to theater, whereas gambling relates to dash. The options followed here is casino, club, bar and gym. Looking at the options, we can clearly say that second is the place where first operation is performed. On checking at the options, we have theater is the place. Theater is meant for acting. In the similar way, we have to search for an option where gambling is performed. Gambling is performed usually in clubs. So the right options for this question is option B. You should not choose casino. Casino is also a unit of club. It is not an independent unit. Casino is nothing but a unit of club. The whole unit will be called as club. Usually gambling will be performed in clubs. Okay, right? Casino is the place where the special place where specially these gambling activities takes place. But this casino will also come under which activity? Clubbing activity itself. So the right option for this question is option B, club. Moving on to our next question. Candle relates to wax, whereas paper relates to dash. Okay, the options are wood, tree, bamboo and pulp. While looking at the options, we should not choose the word which has its own origin, right? Paper has its origin from wood. We should not say wood here. Why? Because candle is related to wax. Wax is the raw material used for candle making, whereas we need to search for raw material from which paper is manufactured or paper is produced. As we all know that paper is produced from wood, but wood is not a raw material. Wood is not a secondary raw material for paper making. Okay, the prime raw material for paper making is pulp. The right option for this question is option D, pulp. Moving on to our next question, problem number 12. Race relates to fatigue, whereas fast relates to dash. Options are food, appetite, hunger, and weakness. If we check on the hints now, race causes fatigue action. The fasting causes hunger. The right option for this question is option C. Moving on to our next question. Problem number 13. If a flower relates to bud, then how is a plants related to? The options are seed, taste, flower, as well as twig. From the question, we can clearly say that first is developed by a second. Usually flower is developed from the buds, right? Then we need to search for now how plant is developed. As we know that plant is developed from a seed. So the right option is option A. Moving on to our next question. Problem number 14. If Muslim relates to mosque, then how is a Sikhs related? Options are Golden Temple, Medina, Fire Temple. Fourth one is Gurudwar. Mosque is a place where Muslims perform their religious operation. We need to search where Sikhs perform their religious operations. Usually we know that Sikhs perform their religious operations in Gurudwara. So the right option for this question is Gurudwara. So the right options here is option D. Moving on to our next question. Problem number 15. If man relates to shout, crow relates to dash. Options are cow, chirp, multer. Fourth one is mob. From this we can clearly say that second one is the noise produced by first one, right? We need to search the voice of crow now. Usually the voice of crow will be called as mob. Voice of birds will be called as chirping. The man's smallest sounds will be called as muttering. Right option for this question is option D, mobbing. Next, moving on to our next question. Tobacco relates to nerves, whereas alcohol relates to dash. Options are liver, liquor, intoxication, and fourth one is head. Hints: consumption of first adversely affect the second organ. Consumption of tobacco will severely have an adverse effects on nerves. Similarly, the consumption of alcohol will have a adverse effect or else a bad effect on our liver. So the right option for this question is option A. Moving on to our next question. Problem number 17. If tungsten relates to filament, then how bronze is related to? Options are copper, ship, tin, and as well as ornaments. From this we can conclude that first is used to produce second one. Tungsten is used to make a filaments. Similarly, they are asking in which operation bronze is used. Bronze is used for ornaments making, right? We use the bronze in ornaments making. So the right option for this question is option D. First is used to make the second. Moving on to our next question. If catalog relates to library books, then how is index related to? Right? Options are chapters, books, preface, as well as content. On checking upon hints, we have catalog is an arranged list to find the names of a library. Usually when we visit library, at the first we're gonna check up for catalog for easy referring the book sections, right? In that catalog, everything will be specified about books, where it is kept and in which section it is kept. The all information will be available in a catalog. Similarly, by checking at the index, we're gonna come to know that what are the contents available in that book. On referring index, we will have the information of about content of the book. So the right option we followed here is option D. Moving on to our very next question. Bread relates to wheat, whereas brick relates to dash. The options followed here is clay, fire, cement, as well as building. On checking upon hint, we can clearly say that second is used to make the first, whereas we use wheat for bread making, whereas brick is produced from clay. Second is used to make the first. Okay. On moving on to our very last question, receptionist is related to office, then how is a hostess related to? This is for your activity. This is about a explanation of topic analogy. Thank you.